Welcome everyone, those in the gallery and also those joining us online for April 22nd FBDC meeting. I'd like to invite Councillor Cowan for the acknowledgement of country.
Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first peoples of the country. We acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respect to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Agenda item 2 is apologies and requests to attend by electronic means. There are none known at this time. Any apologies? Which now brings us to agenda item 3. Councillor Quilty, are you happy to do that?
Thank you. So I would like to read the Good Governance Pledge. Wodonga councillors have committed to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the municipal community, abide by the model councillor code of conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the model councillor code of conduct, faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the office of councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Agenda item 4 is declaration by councillors of any conflict of interest. Councillors, are there any? No, thank you. Agenda item 5 is the confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. There is a recommendation before us. We'll have a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Knight. Seconder, Councillor Hall. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now brings us to agenda item 6 and item 6.1, which is the March 2025 quarterly budget report. There's a recommendation there before us. The Finance and Budget Delegated Committee recommend Council endorse the March 25 quarterly budget report. Officer Cook, did you want to speak to this at all before we go to the motion?
And if you'd like me to, up to you.
Yes, please.
Sure. So the March quarterly budget report provides an update of Council's performance over the 9 months to the end of March and compares that against the budget that Council adopted in the middle of last year. Overall, the budget is showing that the report is showing that we're tracking to budget. There are 3 key variances to be mindful of, and they're impacting the results. So we're seeing an increased result from 774,000 in the budget that was adopted by Council in June last year to a forecast result of $3.29 million. That's being generated by a gain on the sale from land at the Lodge Industrial Precinct, as well as additional interest income due to higher than forecast cash on hand and interest rates staying higher for longer due to our broader macroeconomic environment, and lower employee costs driven by vacancies. Outside of that, those 3 points, the performance is largely tracking to budget, and as officers, we are comfortable with the financial position of Council at this point in time, and recommend, as we did in the report, that Council endorse the FBDC endorse the report for Council.
Thank you, Officer Quill. Any questions or comments to Officer Quill before we go to the moving of the motion? So we've got a recommendation there before us. We have a mover. Councillor Knight, getting in quickly.
Yeah, as always, I like to do that.
And seconder, Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, I just was going to read out the recommendation. Is that the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee recommend that Council endorse the March 2025 quarterly budget report.
Thank you for reading it. Would you like to speak to it? No?
I think it's really significant that we're tracking really well, and it's good to see, and hopefully we can keep that up.
Councillor Cowan, any comments? Any seconder?
Thank you. I think being able to forecast a budget surplus is where we would want to be. So that's good. And I think there's a note there about the capital works expenditure to date, that's 9.43 million, but with a forecast full spend and expecting to track to spend that $18.2 million, $02 million by the end of the financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. And I invite other councillors to speak to motion. Councillor Hall.
Okay, I'll just probably go a little bit of what was said before, but the forecast with the 24-25 budget had our surplus at 774,000. The March 25 quarterly finance report estimates it now to be 3.29 million. It is somewhat higher than forecast and and that can often be the case at times. Forecasting can be subjective as circumstances change, and as with this surplus we received higher interest rates from bank deposits, land sales, staff vacancies. All of this could have been helpful when building a budget, but however, there is always a bit of the unknown when building a budget. That is why 4-year and 10-year financial forecasting budgets are just an opinion, a calculated opinion. We just deal with the numbers that are at the time and their assumptions, and there's never any guaranteed that they are the actuals and that they will be the actuals. So it's always good when you get a surplus rather than deficit in the financial statements. But I also would like to thank Dina and Brent and their staff for all the hard work in providing councillors with the information and the current financial position that we have come to from where we were. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Coofey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I would like to echo the 2 points that Councillor Hall has made. Firstly, in thanking the finance team for looking after our financials and for last year for putting the budget together. It's always a guessing exercise, and we very rightly usually put together a conservative budget, not including a number of things in there, such as land sales. And this allows us often to be more confident and to give confidence to the community. And sometimes we have nice surprises like that. So based on, obviously, on March projections, we are likely to end up with a healthy surplus at the end of this financial year. Whether it will be 3.29 or a little bit different, it will be in the black, so it's good. And just to emphasize, as we are in the middle of doing the budget for the following year, budgeting exercise is always very useful, and it's a tool for us to make sure that we are spending our ratepayers' money frugally and responsibly. What we will end up with is a guessing game, and being a conservative and responsible is our task at putting together a budget. It's not a bad thing that we end up with over. It's a good thing, and it is to be expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coofey. Well done in time too. Any other councillors who'd like to comment or question? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Again, carried and unanimous. Thank you. Which now leads us to item 6.2, the draft budget 2025-26 and financial plan 2025-26 to 2034-35, and the revenue and rating plan 2025 to 2026 to 2028-2029. And perhaps before we go to the recommendation, I'd just like to make a couple of comments, and particularly like to thank the staff for their diligence in preparing this budget. I know a lot of work's gone into it. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the work of councillors in our discussions and sharing our priorities and perspectives in the drafting of this budget. I acknowledge that the budget has been prepared on the assumptions of a 3% increase following our last FBDC meeting and is consistent with the AEC report recommendation in 2024 recommending council adopt full rate cap in future budgets. I appreciate the complexity of preparing the draft budget, not just in terms of the amount of variables and assumptions, but also in the context of today's economic challenges, including our cost of living, persistent inflationary pressures and global uncertainty. I also appreciate the difficulty of drafting a budget that reflects the needs and expectations of a growing city. Doing this in a way that reflects council's commitment to responsible financial management, while also taking into consideration community wellbeing and long-term sustainability is somewhat of a balancing act. I note the draft budget assures no cuts to frontline services. Importantly, the draft budget does deliver on $26 million in capital works, and dominantly their asset renewals. It dedicates funding to facilitating Wodonga's economic growth and resourcing the sale of land and logic to secure council's capacity to invest into our community. It also funds local advocacy and the development of youth strategy. All this while delivering a modest operational surplus and a significant reduction in debt. There's a recommendation, councillors, before us. Do I have a mover of that recommendation or an alternative?
I would like to move.
Councillor Cruelty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to move that the draft budget 2025-26, draft financial plan 25-26 to 34-35, and draft revenue and rating plan 25-29 be approved for public exhibition and feedback for at least 21 days in accordance with community engagement policy with the following adjustments. A, that the rate increase rate is reduced to 2.5%. B, the draft budget 25-26 include the recommendation of the assessed panel for awarding of 11 community funding requests for 25-26 budget as resolved at the April 22nd, 2025 Finance and Budget Delegated Committee meeting, with the amount allocated to hot house theatre reduced to 40,000 and the amount allocated to the Murray Arts reduced to 15,000, and not include any recipient commitments in subsequent years of 26-27 and 27-28. C, the amount of 350,000 allocated to the design of Senior Citizens Community Hub is taken out of 25-26 budget and is considered at a later stage. D, the amount of 250,000 allocated to the potential employment of an economic development officer or otherwise employed in economic development area is reduced to 150,000 and not used for employing an ongoing officer, but rather preference for external consultants. That 40,000 allocated for youth strategy is taken out. 2, the Chief Executive Officer presents a report on the public exhibition and feedback for consideration by Finance and Budget Delegated Committee at its scheduled meeting on 16th of June 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cruelty. There's a fair bit in there. I think the CEO has managed to capture that.
I've just finished writing it.
Is it?
I've written it quickly, but yeah.
I've written it quickly too.
So
Let's see if we have second.
having moved that, could I see the seconder?
Oh,
Councillor Hall is the seconder. Councillor Quilty, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, please. And I will try to quickly go through every item that I have proposed in excess of the current recommendation to explain my reasoning. First of all, I have proposed yet again to reduce the rate increase to 2.5%. I would like to assure councillors that it is not in any way a political move. Even if we agreed to 2% rate increase, but I found efficiencies in the budget that can be achieved. and ways to spend community money more responsibly. I would still fight that increase if I thought the increase would be too much. So I think in the current situation, 2.5% increase is still a bit of money, and it's still more than we forecast previously. That would be 2%, but I think it's reasonable. As for reducing the amounts allocated, sort of changing the resolution made by the committee last time, reducing the amounts allocated to Hothouse, Citra, and the amount allocated to Murray Arts. I did give my reasons at the last meeting, but I would like to add that these contributions will still be more generous than what our counterparts in Albury are, not counterparts, our colleagues in Albury are giving to the same organizations. And I believe that they are still very generous amounts giving to these organizations in preference of some other community organizations and funding applicants. And besides, we currently have a policy that talks about reviewing community giving some grants every year and doing it annually in line with the budget, and entering MOUs for 3 years is not in line and in accordance with that policy. I have suggested to move the amount of 350,000 allocated to the design of senior citizens towards a later stage. I think that it is premature to start planning the design. I know many councils said that they want this facility and they want it shovel ready. I believe that the amount of money we are looking at to build such a facility and then to maintain this facility is a bit out of reach for us currently. And there is probably not even zero, but somewhere in the red guarantee that we will receive funding from our state or federal government for that. So spending this money on designing a project that may not happen for a long time and may become out of date will be a waste of money. We could consider, and I would be very happy to consider starting this design when we have a little bit more money, for example, if and when we achieve that from land sales at Logic or elsewhere. And here, this gives me this logic word gives me a segue to my next proposition, reducing the amount of 250,000 to 150,000. And please, Mr. Mayor, through you, Mr. CEO, please do stop me if I start encroaching onto your territory of operational decisions. However, I would like to use this opportunity to caution councillors against putting a highly paid senior officers on the books. It's a huge jump of a cliff. It's bringing a lot of on costs. It's very hard to get rid of a government employee if they're not performing, and it is a huge commitment for us. We can get a lot of knowledge and a lot of external experience by hiring consultants and hiring external agents in the economic development area, in my opinion. And lastly, I have suggested to take out 40,000 in allocated to creating the EU strategy. And I asked all my colleagues not to take it as a sign that I don't want us to work with youth or anything of that nature. I just believe that it is a lot of money allocated to creating a strategy that we don't actually need.
20 seconds left, Councillor Courtney.
Just prior to this meeting, Officer Delegated has given me an extensive list of things that we already do with youth. Strategy is a huge undertaking and exercise that will draw a lot of council resources, and I believe that we can continue with a youth partnership successfully and programs without having a strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney, as the mover. Seconder, Councillor Hall.
Happy to
Reserve your. Any other councillors, questions or comments? Councillor Cowan.
I think, again, I've made this argument before, but the reason that I've supported a budget based on a rate cap of 3% is because of the clear recommendation of future financial sustainability that goes hand in hand with the dedicated work that has been done to reduce the costs by $2.8 million over the previous year on the recommendations of the AEC. And this considerable work cannot be ignored. I want to pay respect to that, and I think that's why I won't be supporting Councillor Cruikshan's motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other comments from any other councillors? Councillor Knight?
Yeah, I also won't probably support this at this stage, as much as I would love to have the rates at 2.5%. Sometimes there's a time where we have to take a little bit more of a hit to move forward. The panel assessed grants, on one hand we're thanking the people for doing things, and then the next hand we're telling people that they haven't done a great job, which is something we probably have to deal with, in that the grants themselves or the policy behind those grants, I think we should deal with in the next 12 months. But we should respect the people that have done the panel and the assessments, which has been quite thorough as far as I've seen. The senior citizens budget, we have discussed previously about moving that 350 into another year and swapping them around for the 150 to make the budget look a little bit better. But if we don't have a design ready, we won't get a grant. They won't give us money unless we've got it ready to go. So if we want to get it, we have to do it. And it is tied to land sales and other options as well for building of the senior citizens hall and finishing off our lovely precinct out there. As to the economic manager and reducing it, once again, a lot of sentiment around the place is that we as a government, spend a lot of money on consultation and we waste a lot of our money. I believe that having someone in-house, makes it easier for us to get exactly what we want out of those people. Yes, it may be hard to move people on, but I think Wodonga City Council has a good culture, and that we can pick the right person and make that work for us and get us to sell some of that land and get some of our stuff moving and grow Wodonga in the right direction. The youth strategy, it's great. We work in partnership with all these people as well, but if we don't have a strategy and an alignment period, and this is once again going back to paying consultants money to tell us how we should be doing things. If we have someone in-house, once again, the strategy will help us with that. That then can lead us through those paths later on. So I believe that the budget that we've worked on at 3% is the best budget moving forward for Wodonga, and I'll be supporting the recommendation that is actually put forward and not this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Any other councillor comments before I also make a comment and then go to Councillor for right reply? Any other councillor comments? I won't repeat what's been said by Councillor Cowan and Councillor Knight. Certainly support their rationale, particularly given respect to the AEC recommendation from last year. But this won't come as any surprise to any here tonight, that I am deeply passionate about growing Wodonga. And to me, a key element of that is economic development. And rather than it being an expense, I absolutely see it as an investment in growing our city, an investment in attracting businesses, an investment in creating jobs, and an investment in creating a city that our youth can get jobs in. I see the resourcing of this as being critical to not just that, but also liberating our balance sheet. You know, we've got a number of assets on our balance sheet that are surplus to need, that aren't adding value to our community. I see this resource as being able to expedite the sale of land at Logic, which was for the intent of attracting businesses, creating jobs, and improving the sustainability of our economy, but also ultimately having an impact on the rate balance between residential and industrial. So for those reasons, I respectfully won't be supporting Councillor Courtney's motion. Councillor Hall, right of reply, and then Councillor Courtney.
Okay, yes, as for the, I'd just like to clarify with the AEC report, it does have, it did recommend it did have a $2.8 million deficit. And at that time it recommended either an 8.75% rate increase, or what we did was a 2.75 rate cap, and we went through doing efficiencies and a restructure of the council, which was probably much needed because I don't think it's been done for a long time. But having said that, going forward, there was talk about we need to, it's got here, there's many other avenues for meeting our financial sustainability, and it wasn't just with rate cuts. It was through it, like I've got it here in front of me, improve the economy scale, the current service delivery, and approach and increase how cost of additional services outputs, service and growth. It was looking at a whole range of other aspects of how we could do an alternative delivery approach to services. On the growth in service costs to our community because of the high cost that creates annually to our budget. Now, this budget, with a 0.5% increase to our rates, it has a compounding effect. It's like when if we had put the 8.75% increase that was recommended by the ANC, and we put the 3% increase, our rates would have tonight, we would be looking at an increase of on the $250,000 rate assessment, $293.75 over the 2 years. And that's excluding garbage and it's excluding the fire service levy. That's a substantial amount of money. Now, if we hadn't done, and what we did with the 2.75, did a restructure of the council how we services and what have you, we're still keeping the services to the level that they were, and appointing this 2.5% that Councillor Kunti has recommended. We're looking at a $131.25 over the 2 financial years. So there's $162.50 over 2 years. Now, that might not sound a lot, but when you each year put on another, say 3% or 2%, it creates a high rate base.
Councillor Hall, 15 seconds. Sir.
And this is what we experienced back in 2016. We had 15 years of rate rises between 5 and 6%. And this is what we've been dealing with in the 4 years since, trying to get that rate base lower. So every year, it's not such a huge substantial amount onto the base that people have already. And people don't understand that, but it's a massive, massive job, and it's done through spending. We spend too much. We don't have to have some of the things that we've put into this budget. For instance, 250,000 points, a 5% increase, a 0.5% increase in your rates. So everything that's over that is a rate increase for your rates.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. The CEO has asked to make a comment on operational nature. Councillor Hall. Councillor Hall, thank you. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, with this level of change to the draft budget, just an operational comment that it'll delay us in preparing the documentation to go out to public comment, because it will have flow-on effects to different parts of the budget. It'll have to be restructured so that we're transparent with the community if this resolution is to pass. And that may mean that we'll have to delay some future dates of the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee and the council position about adopting the budget. So just operationally letting you know that this will delay us in that process. And councillors, we have expressed that fairly specifically through all the budget processes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Courtney, right of reply as the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everybody for providing your opinion and debate. I have written down a few points for reply. First of all, it continues to be my utmost belief that financial sustainability lies in controlling our costs, not in increasing our rates. I was going to talk about a C report containing multiple recommendations other than increasing rates, but Councillor Hall has done for me quoting directly from a C report, so thanks for that. As for Councillor Knight's comment about having a shovel-ready project when we get the money, the likelihood of us getting the money from state or federal government, as I see it, is very, very low. And even if we do end up getting anything, it will only be a small percentage of what we will end up spending when we finish building the facility, not to mention the maintenance. I speak from experience. We have some other facilities that were partially funded by government grants. And finally, sales proceeds from lodging. I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Mayor, in investing into our city's future and in trying to divest our assets as profitably as possible and as quickly as possible. My suggestion of reducing 250 to 150 was to not to eliminate the investment completely, but to drive the efficiency and to make sure that we spend it well on external consultancy. Spending on external consultancy has benefits of using a variety of experiences external to organization. And I would like to make a point. We were provided, everybody was provided a list of total sales that we achieved through the divestment of assets in the last few years from 2010. We averaged at 4.8 in the last 5 years after we changed our strategy of pricing our land at Logic. So I think we are already doing all right with economic development without having an expensive office on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Given the debate and everyone's had an opportunity to speak.
In the case of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan, for sharing an alternative motion. I'd like to put it now to a vote. So all those in favour of the motion? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Hall. All those against the motion? Councillor Knight, Councillor Seymour, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Goble. The motion's failed. Councillor Cowan, you foreshadowed an alternative motion. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm foreshadowing I'm putting forward the motion that has been recently distributed to councillors with an addition of point 2 to the recommendation. The words are slightly different, so I'll read it out.
Please.
One, that the draft budget 25-26, draft financial plan 25-26 to 2034-35, and draft revenue and rating plan 25 to 29 be approved for public exhibition and feedback for at least 21 days in accordance with the community engagement policy. 2, the draft budget 25-26 include the recommendations of the assessment panel for awarding of 11 community funding requests for the 25-26 budget as resolved at the April 22, 2025 FBDC meeting, but not include any recipient commitments in subsequent years of 2026, 27 and 27-28. And point 3, that the Chief Executive Officer present a report on the public exhibition and feedback for the consideration by the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee at a scheduled meeting on 16th of June 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. As the mover of that motion, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Seymour, yes, I think. Sorry.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. It's unlike you, Councillor Knight.
That's right.
Councillor Cowan, as the mover, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. Yes. Tonight, I'm delighted that we're presenting the draft 2025 budget along with the draft financial plan and the draft revenue and rating plan for endorsement by this council to go out for community consultation. These documents represent months of diligent work and reflect our ongoing commitment to responsible financial management, transparent governance, and in alignment with our council plan, which is also out currently at the moment, along with our public health and wellbeing plan. This year's draft budget proposes a 63.2 million investment in service delivery, and with increased funding for economic development and advocacy and to support local growth in this region. We're also proposing a $26.3 million capital works program targeting priorities of roads, drainage, footpaths, recreation facilities and open space, including playgrounds and further work at Logic. A key highlight of this budget is the early repayment of $5.82 million to the Westpac Bank on a loan, delivering a net savings to our ratepayers of approximately $345,000 over 6 years. This demonstrates our commitment to long-term financial sustainability. The draft financial plan over 10 years continues this focus, aiming to fully repay that debt by 2033-34, while maintaining underlying surpluses and averaging more than $27 million per year in capital investment. Our draft revenue and rating plan is largely unchanged, and it outlines how we will fund these priorities with no additional municipal charge, continued differential rates and full cost recovery of waste services, while also providing for those experiencing financial hardship. Of course, preparing this budget hasn't been without its challenges. Balancing rising costs, service demands and infrastructure needs against revenue constraints requires careful judgment. And we've worked diligently together, planning within a 3% rate cap, while planning responsibly for our population growth, economic pressures and the expectations of our community. As first-time councillor, I came into the role wanting to play a stronger part in economic development, wanting to raise our profile and compete with other regional and capital cities. I'm pleased that this draft budget includes funding to support that goal. And I've also been clear that young people deserve a stronger voice in our city. And this budget funds the development of a youth strategy with a youth worker to follow in future years. Of course, I remain committed to climate action and environmental leadership, and I'll keep pushing for these for real progress over the next 3 years. But this budget reflects key steps in the right direction. It offers hope and optimism for a future with asset investment, and I'm truly looking forward to hearing back from our community on this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Seymour is the seconder. Would you like to comment?
No, that was really well said. I don't think I have much else to say other than we have worked really hard and it's taken a lot of sessions to kind of get our head around it, try and work out the best budget. But with the finance department and team who put this together, thank you very much. I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. I'm going to open up to other councillors. Councillor Coulty was first, and Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Coulty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I would like to thank Officer Delegated for drafting this alternative motion for us that reflects our concern about the process of entering a memorandum of understanding. Secondly, I would like to acknowledge my colleague Councillor Cowan's commitment and integrity as she sees it to the process. I have concluded from the previous meeting of this committee that Councillor Cowan was very much willing to provide community funds to the above-mentioned community organizations. However, her uncertainty with the process and policy impediments that we might be facing has called for her having another look at this decision, even if it might end up with a financial outcome that she may or may not desire. I hope I'm reading your intentions correctly. So thank you for your commitment, Councillor Cullen. I will not be supporting this motion because of parts 1 and part 3. I simply cannot support the budget that has increased in rates to surplus to what I think is necessary. And I believe that we have not achieved all the savings and efficiencies which we could, even though we have achieved a lot thanks to the efforts of Officer Quill, Officer Blackett and their team. As much as I want to vote for this motion just to support the part that says not include any recipient commitments in subsequent years, I will not be voting due to presence of other commitments.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually probably just about to disagree completely with what Councillor Quilty has said, in that I actually am very supportive of point 1 and point 3. It's point 2 in the motion that I have an issue with, because I'm a big believer that our strategic partners deserve some certainty in their planning, which is why I'm more supportive of having a longer term MOU with our strategic partners. And it's probably for that reason that I won't be supporting this motion tonight, as much as I agree with everything else that Councillor Cullen has said this evening.
And Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I too will not be supporting this budget. The recommendation put forward. Allowed a 0.5% increase to your council rates. It's a minimum. Compared to the modelling, because it depends on how much the value of your property is, that could be even more. Compared to the modelling rate rise of 2.5 back in March, the extra spending is going on recurring costs to the budget, spending costs. So it'll increase your rates in the next financial year, but also in the year after, and in the year after, and in the year after. Increases to service levels. We've kept a pretty good standard of service levels over the terms that I've been on council. The increase to the youth services, 40,000 for the youth strategy, ongoing costs for the next 3 years, or next 3 years, will be $443,428. Any funding by these councils for these programs, if we, there will be programs included in that funding, will be in competing with other service providers like Junction Services. So they provide great youth services, and we will be looking at funding that competes with them. As for the increase in the Economic Development Advocacy Manager Band 8 with a salary of $250,000 plus ongoing costs going forward in the next financial year and the years going forward, we've been down this path before and we've been left disappointed. Looking for a perspective of high land sales and high prices, which can never be guaranteed. It is also noted that land sales and business investment are often market driven. We can still achieve good outcomes by the way we market our product and who we list our product with, using commission-based incentives or consultants as needed, without the commitment to the high ongoing costs to our operational budget. These two alone add $1.5 million to our budget over forward year estimates, which when you break it down on an average per year is 0.75% rise in our budget, in our rates. So I prefer that we addressed our spending rather than put these rate rises onto our community. Rate rises are compounding, as I said, and the state government introduced the rate cap back in 2017. Our rates, if we didn't have the rate cap, would be considerably much higher than they are now.
15 seconds.
All I can say is thank heavens for the rate cap. But on rates before the rate cap, as I said before, 15 years prior to 2016, were rising 5 and 6% per annum. And that is why the state government brought in the rate cap, because councils were spending beyond their means. If you come off a high rate base, you ultimately pay more every year going forward as this compounds every year.
Thank you, councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Knight.
It's flagged with this motion that I will have one.
You can indeed, councillor Aldridge, shadowing an alternative motion in the event this does not get up. I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Cowan, councillor Knight, councillor Seymour, councillor Goble, all those against? Councillor Quilty, councillor Hall, councillor Aldridge. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Agenda item 7 is confidential business. CEO, there is none, which now leads us to the closing of the meeting. Just noting the time at 6:45 p.m. I'd like to thank staff, the gallery and those online, and councillors for tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.